In 1970, Ali MacGraw delivered a line that became one of the most quoted sentences in cinema history.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
55 years later, she looks back on the relationship that defined her adult life. Not the one on screen, but the real one. And what she describes sounds nothing like that tagline. It sounds like a woman who spent years saying nothing at all, who stayed quiet when she should have spoken, who abandoned the career that made her famous because the man she loved told her to, who watched her own life narrow down to the dimensions of someone else's comfort and called it love, because she didn't yet have the language to call it what it actually was. Steve McQueen was the most magnetic man she had ever met. She knew, the moment she encountered him, that she was heading towards serious trouble. She was right. And the story of what happened between them, what it cost her, how long it took to recover from it, and what she found on the other side is one of the most honest accounts of what fame, control, and self-abandonment can look like when they're wrapped in the packaging of a Hollywood romance. Ali MacGraw is 85 years old. She lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She has been sober for over 30 years, and she has never stopped telling the truth about any of it. This is the full story. Ali MacGraw grew up in Bedford Village, New York, in a home that looked fine from the outside and wasn't. Her father was an alcoholic. Her parents fought constantly. The particular damage of a childhood defined by instability and adult chaos is the kind that doesn't announce itself loudly. It works quietly, eroding a child's sense of what they deserve and what they should expect from the people who claim to love them. She grew up with a specific kind of self-doubt that high achievement doesn't fix. The kind that follows you into rooms full of people who admire you and whispers that the admiration is based on a misunderstanding. That if they knew you properly, they wouldn't feel that way. She found her way into modeling through the guidance of legendary editor Diana Vreeland. Fashion led to film. In 1969, she appeared in Goodbye Columbus, a romantic comedy that worked partly because MacGraw's performance had something in it beyond technique. A watchable quality that critics noticed and audiences responded to without being able to fully articulate why. That performance caught the attention of Robert Evans, then head of production at Paramount Pictures. Evans was powerful, perceptive, and immediately certain that MacGraw was exactly what he needed for a film he was developing. He cast her in Love Story. They married in 1969. Their son Joshua was born in 1971. From the outside, the shape of her life at that moment looked close to perfect. A major film, a powerful husband, a child. Everything that the cultural narrative of the time said a woman should want, assembled, and functional. And then The Getaway happened. In 1972, Robert Evans cast his wife in The Getaway, an action film directed by Sam Peckinpah starring Steve McQueen. Evans thought he was giving his wife a career opportunity. He was, in fact, ending his marriage. He just didn't know it yet. Ali MacGraw did, in a way. She later wrote in her memoir that she hesitated about taking the role, and that the real reason for that hesitation had nothing to do with leaving her young son. She already sensed what would happen. She sensed it, specifically. I knew I was going to get in some serious trouble with Steve, she wrote. And I was right. That sentence is worth sitting with. She knew. She took the role anyway. Which tells you something about the pull McQueen exerted on the people around him. He was 12 years older than her, and he carried the specific charisma of someone who had survived a genuinely difficult early life and came out the other side with the particular magnetism of someone who has nothing left to prove. Abandoned by his father, sent away by his mother to a reform school at 9 years old, reform school to the Merchant Marines to acting to a career that made him the highest paid actor in the world. MacGraw later described his presence with the kind of precision that tells you the feeling never fully faded. When McQueen entered a room, she said, everyone turned, men, women, children. He consumed the space without trying. Their affair began shortly after filming started in Texas. By the end of 1972, MacGraw had filed for divorce from Evans. The man who had given her the role that made her famous, who had married her, who had a son with her, was blindsided. The betrayal became part of Hollywood legend. And eventually, decades later, part of the narrative of The Offer, the Paramount Plus series about Evans and the making of The Godfather. In July 1973, Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen married. The fairy tale phase lasted approximately as long as it took for the cameras to stop paying attention. Two things happened before the wedding that MacGraw would spend years understanding the significance of. First, McQueen required her to sign a prenuptial agreement guaranteeing she would seek nothing financially in the event of divorce. She signed it. Second, he told her he didn't want a working wife. He was the biggest star in the world, and he expected her to stop being a star at all. She agreed. At the peak of her career, off the back of Love Story, one of the highest-grossing films of its era, at the exact moment when she had every option available, Ali MacGraw walked away from Hollywood because the man she loved told her to. She has been honest about her reasoning for the rest of her life. She agreed out of fear. Not fear of him physically, fear of losing him. The specific fear that had been installed in her by a childhood defined by people leaving, by a father whose alcoholism made him unreliable, by the ambient message that love was conditional and could be withdrawn. McQueen knew, consciously or not, exactly how to use that fear. Life in their Malibu beach house started with the surface pleasures: barbecues, walks on the sand. The specific pleasure of a secluded life far from the industry noise. For a while, MacGraw told herself this was what she wanted: peace, simplicity, a man who needed her. What she actually had was a man whose childhood had installed in him a profound distrust of women, who needed her in the specific way that controlling people need the people they control, as confirmation that they are not going to be left, as a fixed point that cannot move independently. His jealousy was constant. If she looked at another man, it registered. If she spoke warmly to someone at a social gathering, it registered. Meanwhile, McQueen had affairs. The rumors circulated widely and persistently through Hollywood. He flirted openly. He disappeared. He came back volatile. MacGraw has talked about this dynamic with the clinical honesty of someone who has had decades of sobriety and therapy to examine it. She played cook, cleaning lady, simple woman to the hilt, her words. She was terrified of being abandoned if she ever spoke her mind. So she stayed quiet. She suffered. She told herself it was love. His substance use worsened. Hers began. Alcohol arrived as the thing that made the silence bearable, the way it always does for people who have been taught that their feelings are not safe to express directly. By 1977, 5 years into the marriage, Ally MacGraw had reached the end of something. She told Steve McQueen she wanted to go back to acting. She wanted her career back. The career she had been at the pinnacle of when she set it aside for him. This was not only a professional request. It was the first time in their marriage that she had said, clearly and directly, "I want something for myself." It was a declaration of the existence of a self that had been systematically suppressed for 5 years. McQueen's response was immediate and definitive. In that case, we are filing for divorce. Not a discussion, not a negotiation, not even a fight, a pronouncement. She had expressed a need, and the consequence was the withdrawal of his presence. She accepted it. She took a role in Convoy, directed by Peckinpah, the same director who had brought them together in The Getaway, and made the reconciliation impossible. The divorce was finalized in 1978. 2 years later, in 1980, Steve McQueen died from pleural mesothelioma, a rare cancer caused by asbestos exposure linked to his years working around insulation before his acting career. He was 50 years old. For MacGraw, his death was grief complicated by everything they had been to each other. The passion that had been real, the control that had also been real, the person he could have been, the relationship they might have had if either of them had been different people at that time. She has said across multiple interviews and in her memoir that she wishes they had both grown old sober. That sentence contains more pain than most paragraphs. The years following McQueen's death were not the beginning of recovery. They were the bottom. MacGraw was 41 years old. Her most significant relationship was over in the worst possible way. Not resolved, not healed, just ended by death before any of it could be properly examined. Her career had been in suspension for years. Hollywood had moved on in the specific, merciless way that Hollywood moves on from women who are no longer 25 and in the cultural conversation. She worked a role in Convoy, a 14-episode arc in the primetime soap dynasty in 1984, work that kept her visible without restoring what she had lost. If this kind of storytelling is what brought you here, subscribe. More are coming. And drop in the comments, did you grow up watching Ally MacGraw? What did her story mean to you? I genuinely want to know.